So with the Incredible Hulk set to be a major part of the upcoming next entry for Spider-Man, aka Spider-Man Brand New Day, in this video, we are going to look at potential comics that they could take where Spider-Man and Hulk have teamed up or maybe even fought one another and see how this could translate into the upcoming Spider-Man film. So if you've been keeping up with the rumors, chances are you know that Mark Ruffalo has joined the cast of Spider-Man Brand New Day, and that he will in fact be playing Hulk. Now what's interesting about this is that all the reports are stating that he's not playing Smart Hulk. Instead, he will be the savage version for a majority of the film. Now of course, this is really interesting and crazy, but also, it's not unheard of. We just recently had Sam Wilson, aka Captain America, face off against the Red Hulk in his own film. And per these reports, the Hulk will not be the main villain of the piece. Instead, they're going to position him as a major threat while they hide many of the other elements. So, selling the movie on that aspect, but unlike Captain America Brave New World, it's not the entire thing. So again, I think it's smart marketing and also trying to differentiate it from what they did with Captain America, which might have been an error when you look at the marketing in the long run. So with all that in mind, over the next, 8 to 10 minutes or so, I'm going to go over into the potential comics that they could be pulling from as a giant Hulk and Spider-Man fan. So without further ado, let's get into the stories that we might see unfold and where they come from. So the first comic we are going to get into is The Amazing Spider-Man issue 382. Now this is a two-part story that begins in The Amazing Spider-Man 381, and it deals with the Hulk being infected with a gamma virus. And what this virus specifically does for him is that it continues to rapidly increase his rage and strength to uncontrollable levels, more so than what we mostly were used to seeing the Hulk have as peak ability at the time. So this story could honestly easily work in the MCU. Think of it this way: what if Bruce Banner is teaching at Peter's new school, and somehow, maybe Valentina or maybe somebody else triggers a gamma bomb that goes off, or they infect him somehow. Maybe they sneak some of those pills or a new derivative of them into whatever he's consuming. He starts to rage out. He goes absolutely berserk, and Spider-Man, now having a closer connection to him as Peter Parker, obviously, but clearly Bruce doesn't know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Maybe this is the connective tissue and that's how the revelation is made. And he's like, hey, look, I'm Spider-Man. It could be the thing that puts them together and then brings them into Secret Wars as a unit, as sort of their own team that's forming. Next up, 2020's Immortal Hulk Great Power. Now, this is another interesting story where it was a one-shot that saw Loki try to separate Bruce Banner and Hulk, and it goes, as one would expect, pretty catastrophically. And what we see is the essence of Hulk transformed and transferred into Spider-Man. And then we get Spider-Hulk. And obviously, much later on, we get Bruce Banner and Peter working together to figure out how to make everything right. This naturally leads to a confrontation of the Hulk facing Spider-Man in the end, and we get to the Hulk remembering all the events that happened, and things, as one would expect with comics, go back to the standard fare. You know, they don't really change a whole lot. Hulk is Hulk, Peter is Spider-Man, and the story continues. So it could be a pretty cool visual to have a trailer end with Hulk on one side, and then we look over and Peter Parker hulking out into Spider-Hulk. Like, that seems like a $2 billion box office sale if I've ever seen one, you know? So with the weird out of the way, let's get on to Team Up. So, Ultimate Team Up with the Hulk. This was Marvel's Ultimate line that obviously saw team-ups. Now, team ups, but also sometimes disguised as a versus, and then ultimately they team up in the end. So, this is a pretty simple story. What we end up getting is Spider Man, Ultimate Spider Man, Peter Parker, I should say, teaming up with the Hulk after fighting him. And a majority of the issue is just the two really going toe to toe, and that's really the spectacle. Now, while that doesn't sound like much, back in the day, the Ultimates universe was killing the 616 in sales, and at one point they were going to make it the main continuity. So the Ultimates were a pretty big deal. So having Ultimate Hulk show up and fight Ultimate Spider-Man, making a big deal out of it, these characters crossing paths for the first time, you could just use that as a general basis, but of course add a little bit more to it. Which brings me back to what I talked about with The Amazing Spider-Man, where maybe that's the whole idea. Just sort of have Hulk get angrier for whatever reason and fight Peter Parker. There is also The Amazing Spider-Man 328, and this story is largely focused on Hulk's Joe Fixit era. And this is one of those interesting ones where what we end up seeing is that Sebastian Shaw of the X-Men, who was in X-Men First Class, offers up a lot of money for Hulk to fight Spider-Man. And the story's pretty much that. The two of them end up kind of just duking it out, except there's a little bit of a twist here, which I don't think Marvel Studios would do, but you never know. Because at this time, the whole idea of cosmic Spider-Man was the thing. So they kind of pull that in there, and you can see how, that plays out. Because, come on, it's basic Spider-Man versus Hulk at, like, his peak, and he's got some intelligence and stuff, so he can really, really figure things out and get the upper hand. So there's really the only, and I think most notable, crossovers and events that have really happened with these two characters. And honestly, if any of these are to be it, it's the first one I talked about. I think it just makes sense that maybe Hulk has somehow been hit with a gamma bomb or something that makes him angrier and unleashes Savage Hulk. He's probably going to be teaching Peter school or visiting or something. Things are going to get hectic. Peter is going to have to stop him the best way that he can. Maybe they can pull the whole hulking out thing with Peter as well as like a temporary thing, sort of like Compound V in The Boys. I think you could pull that angle. I think that would be kind of cool. And honestly, it gives us a spectacle. And that's really what they need since it's not a multiverse film. You're going to need a spectacle. Spidey versus Hulk. That's enough of one to, I think, drive ticket sales. Thank you for checking out that video, and thank you for your continued support. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, do whatever you will, and if you're so inclined and would like some additional content from us, which includes unfiltered content and bonus discussions, we do offer exclusively in our member section. We hope to see you there. So thank you for watching, and have a good one.